morning. It's actually afternoon, but whatever, you don't need to know that. Welcome to Gauche, I'm Georgia, and today we're very late to the party, but we're going to be reviewing everything that I made, either sewing or knitting in 2024. It's currently the 16th of January, so I'm quite late to this party, and by the time I've edited this and found time to upload it, in all likelihood it's going to be February, so I apologise for that. But I thought that it was worth making the video anyway, because it would be really nice for me to have something to kind of look back on and remember like everything I made and all the progress I made. I only have like an hour before I have to leave to go and have lunch with my mum, so we'll see how it goes, but without further ado, let's get started. There's a lot more knitting projects than there are sewing projects, and I'm really happy about that. Like, I want to keep knitting consistently in 2025, but I also really want to pick up my sewing projects and get a bit more momentum going with those. I'm going to try and do this in some semblance of an order. Wow, yeah, okay, so the first thing that I knit in 2024 was this. This is the Veronica Lindbergh Darling Cardigan. I knitted it in a size small, 5mm needles, and I used drops, brushed alpaca silk, and a leftover amount of Istex Let Lopi that I had in my stash from making this that I will get to in a minute. So I had some of this in my stash, and then I had to buy a little bit more to finish it. I think that this is really interesting because when I take these two projects, this is exactly the same yarn, like the base yarn, the Istex Let Lopi is exactly the same. It's only the mohair that I held with it that's changed it, and I think that that's just so cool. Like, that's so cool how that makes such a difference. I think for this one I used the colour Rust to make this. I really love it. I wear this all the time. It's kind of itchy, but I'm not super sensitive to itch. I don't really mind that. And it's super, super warm, really cozy, and I love the buttons that I put on it. They are kind of uneven. Someone said to me, oh, I thought that was a design choice. I was like, no, I just don't measure stuff. So I really should move, because the buttonholes are fine, it's just the buttons aren't even. The only thing that didn't go super well with this was, it was my first time knitting a double knit button band. And I really love this technique. I think it looks really like professional. It feels really sturdy. It's nice and like neat. It's a great finish, but I didn't really get the gauge of my button band right. I mean, it's a notoriously difficult thing to do because you have to get the height of your stitches exactly right, despite the fact that you're like picking up. It's just really tricky. And it didn't quite go perfectly, so it is kind of pulling up the body of the cardigan a little bit. It's okay, it's something that I'm going to bear in mind if I do a double knit button band again, just to make sure that it's nice and loose tension. I would probably say go up a needle size anyway, like as a default, and then, you know, if it's too loose, that's probably not going to be a problem. But if it's too tight, it's really noticeable and it changes the whole kind of shape of the cardigan. So that was the first project in 2024. I knitted these two around the same time, and I think you can kind of see that. I pretty much knitted them simultaneously. This is the Champagne Cardigan by Petite Knit. Everyone online was saying that this is the perfect cardigan pattern. Like, they were raving about it, and I kind of agree. It's a really great pattern. So the yarn I used for this one is Cascade 220 Sport, and I used it with a friend of mine had bought me like this long mohair cardigan years ago, and it wasn't really my style. I never really wore it, so I undertook the almost suicidal task of unraveling this entire cardigan that was machine knit in just one strand of mohair. And I've got to say, I went a little bit crazy doing this. I really did. in general, unraveling mohair is just not a good idea because it lost so much of its fluff and like the halo that you normally get on mohair. Most of that was lost through the unraveling process. And so it didn't actually end up adding that much kind of fluff to this yarn. But it did fill it out a bit, it did make it a bit softer, and I'm glad that I tried it. And actually you'll see there's another project I made with the same base yarn, the Cascade 220 Sport, later on in the year, and you can kind of see the difference in like where I've added the mohair and where I haven't. So I'll show you that in a bit. Again, with this pattern, I should have used a much bigger needle on the button band. I think it looks really neat, but it is pulling the cardigan up a bit, and I think if I'd gone up a needle size, this really would be like the perfect cardigan. The only other thing is that I don't really wear grey. Not really a grey person, like it's quite hard to wear grey with most of my clothes, so I don't think that this was the best colour for me, and I might try and over dye it, but I have a feeling that the mohair that I added in with it isn't mohair, it's almost certainly polyester, so it won't dye. So I'm a bit nervous about over dyeing this. I suppose I could do something like a charcoal grey and see if it goes like a mild effect maybe. I wear it a fair amount and it's really warm and cozy and it's not really itchy at all, but it's not 100% success. We learned a lot. Okay, I have to go and get this. This is the BB balaclava. And I made this out of a gorgeous hand-dyed yarn. Oh, from Loop in London. There are so few knitting shops in London, so when there are, they're amazing, but quite expensive. It's from a brand called Life in the Long Grass, and it's one of those like single skeins, so every single skein is a completely different or like slightly different dye variation. So they're perfect for single skein projects, but they're not really great for like jumpers or stuff like that. They're also extremely expensive. I think this one skein was £29, something like that. Kind of insane. Kind of insane, but beautiful. Like a gorgeous yarn, gorgeous colour. I mean, I know I kind of am like being silly with this because it is kind of ridiculous. Like it's kind of really hard to wear this in a flattering way. I think that like the style evolved throughout the year and now everyone's wearing these really cool like North Face knitted hoods that are like much looser and much cooler. But the reason that I knitted this was because I was cycling a lot of the time and my ears and my cheeks and like my whole head just got so cold. I'm gonna take this off, I feel really silly. Yeah, so my ears and my like cheeks and everything were getting really cold. But if I wore a hat, then I couldn't wear my helmet and there was nothing that would like cover my ears as well. So I really wanted a hood, but I didn't want it to be like loose, i.e. cool, because I wanted it to cover my ears. And this definitely filled the brief. Like it does exactly that. And when it's really cold and I'm cycling, I do wear this and I have absolutely no shame about that. But it's not cool. It doesn't look cool and yeah, it's a little bit embarrassing. Anyway, okay, next up for 2024. Okay, so this was kind of a project that took place over almost the entire year. I started this in February, end of February, and I finished it in end of October. It was one of those projects where you start it when it's cold and then it gets warm and you're like, I don't really feel like knitting that. And then as soon as it gets cold again, you're like, oh my God, I need that jumper. So I picked it up again in the autumn and I finished it a couple of months ago and I love it. I'm so glad that I finished it. This jumper's been through a journey. This jumper has a story. She's got a story to tell. She really has. She's got a history. There is lore behind this jumper. And that just makes me love her even more. Okay, this is the diamond jumper / jacket mashup take 2. Ta-da! Do you think it'll catch on? I knitted this first, probably, oh my God, I think it was like 7 years ago. And I knitted it out of Istex Let Lopi in Rust Heather. So it's a mashup of two Anvenzel patterns, the diamond jacket and the diamond jumper. So the diamond jacket has these amazing balloon sleeves that I just loved. They're like an extreme balloon sleeve, you know, they're like, whew, I love that. But the diamond jumper was raglan, and I wanted a raglan jumper. I liked the neck of the jumper, I liked the body of the jumper, but I wanted the sleeves of the jacket except raglan. So it was a real mashup, and I had to do a little bit of like, it actually wasn't that hard because the patterns are almost exactly the same, and you can just like switch to doing the sleeves when you get to the raglan bit. Anyway, I knitted it and I loved it. It was great. The only thing was it was ginormous. It was huge, and the Istex Let Lopi doesn't have that much kind of structural integrity. It's not spun, and it doesn't really have a ply. It's just like a yarn that it's, well, I suppose it is spun, but it's like one ply. So you can just break it really easily. And I felt like on all of these raglan seams here, and the split hem here, which I added, that's not in the pattern, but I added that, it just was like falling apart. And because I really liked this jumper, I didn't want it to fall apart. I wanted it to last a really long time. And it was kind of annoying me how big it was and how I couldn't wear it under anything. And also because it was knitted out of this much like looser kind of area yarn, even though it was really warm, if I wore it out without a coat on, which I couldn't wear a coat over it because it was so big, the wind just went straight through the holes and I was freezing. So it was kind of unwearable, even though it was amazing. So basically in February 2024, I made the very rash decision. I literally remember this one night, like coming home from work and being like, I'm just gonna rip this jumper. I gotta say, I was going through a little bit of a crisis at this time. This was probably like 10 days after I'd quit my job. And so I'd handed in my notice. There was like a week before I was gonna leave. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I just like pulled apart this jumper that I'd made 5 or 6 years ago. So I ripped apart the original and I set about making another one. And this time I knit it in one needle size down, and I joined the Istex Let Lopi with Drops brushed alpaca silk, and it's in the colour brown. This one was knitted in Istex Let Lopi and Drops alpaca in rust, and then this one is exactly the same base yarn but in brown. And yeah, massive difference, huge. I really need to debobble these sweaters. Oh my god, that's another thing. About like 2 weeks ago, I made the best purchase of my life. The best purchase of my life. I don't know how people aren't making more of a fuss over these. I bought a debobbler. And it's thrilling. My life hasn't been this exciting in a long time. Like, wow, it's amazing. It's changed my life. And now every time I see anything, I'm like,
I want to debobble it. That needs a debobble. Let me debobble your jumper.
So I need to debobble both of these. I've debobbled a lot, but not these yet. So anyway, that's that one. Aha! This is probably my favourite make of 2024. Potentially my favourite knit ever. This is my G Weasley Gant jumper. It's the step-by-step sweater from Florence Miller, and I knitted it in Drops Nepal in the colour Deep Ocean, and then this G in the middle is pomegranate, and then also beige around the G, and that's duplicate stitch. So it's just the step-by-step sweater by Florence Miller, which is a free pattern and it's incredible. I really recommend that you use it. It's like you can use it as a base for almost every kind of jumper that you want to make. I love it. It's really warm. I wear it all the time. It's very dirty. Yeah, it really needs a wash, but that just shows how loved it is. I would say that this yarn, Drops Nepal, she pills like a mother. I mean, my God. Speaking of my depiller, my debobbler, I have debobbled this like a lot. And she's still bobbly. I mean, it's very fluffy. Like, it's very fluffy and squidgy and squashy. So, you know, swings and roundabouts. But yeah, it's mad because there's a project later on that I'll show you where Cascade Eco wool that I used for a different project. I've had that cardigan in my wardrobe for 5 years at least, and it hasn't bobbled a single bit, like not one bobble. But this, just constant. It's like, how is there any jumper left? It's all just bobble. According to my Ravelry, I started that on March 2nd and I finished it on March 15th. So that is literally a 2-week project, which I'm pretty pleased with, embroidery and all. This is the Zipper Sweater Light by Petite Knit, and I knitted it in Lang Yarns Frida, colorway 5. This was like my birthday jumper, so I got given the yarn for my birthday and started it on the 15th, the day I finished the other one. Finished it like a month later. I love it. I'm very happy with it. It's very cozy, very warm. Again, pills like a bastard, but it's great. The only thing is, it's really hard to see online what the different colorways are, and I was really torn between getting the Lang Yarns Frida and then the Nanny Iro or Ito yarns. I can't remember what it's called. Nora. I had seen people knit jumpers with that yarn and I was like, that is amazing. It was kind of reddy and browns and blues and like really nice autumnal colours. I think I got a bit confused with the different numbers of the colours, and it's hard to see from a skein that has like 10 colours in it how it's going to knit up. So this does have quite a lot more pink in it than I would have gone for normally. I don't really wear pink, but I will say this pattern is great. I mean, Petite Knit, like, that's not news to anyone. I'm not like...
My God, let me share this incredible news with you. There's this tiny little designer called Petite Knit.
Like, no, everybody knows Petite Knit patterns are amazing. This one's no exception. It's beautiful, it's lovely, it's warm, it's light, but it's, you know, cozy. What's not to like? The thing that is not to like is that my zip on this is really not ideal. I tried it, I think, 3 or 4 times, and it's still kind of pulling, and it like does that when I wear it. Like, it's not ideal, but I still wear it, so it can't be that bad. Next up, I actually think next up we have some sewing projects, which is very exciting. So we are in the transition now into spring summer, as in the timeline of when I started knitting these things. And this was around the time where I was like intensely applying to drama schools, auditioning and things, getting offers, and very concerned, as I still am, that I wouldn't be able to afford it. And so I was doing lots of fundraising, and I started this sort of initiative called Boxers for Bovters, Bovters being Bristol Old Vic Theatre School, where I was applying. So I started to make loads of these boxer shorts. This is just a self-drafted pattern of elasticated waist, boxer shorts with a faux fly front. On the male boxer shorts, I did a true fly, so it does actually button and open, but on the women's or the unisex, I just did a faux fly. I wear these all the time. I love them. I wear them out, and I wear them in, and I wear them as pajamas, and I wear them as loungewear, and I wear them all the time in summer. In winter, it's fucking cold, so I don't wear them, but in summer, tout le temps. Tout le temps. Je les porte. Okay, so that's that, and then obviously I started that initiative and I started selling these boxers and was making like loads of them. I think I made like 10 pairs. and I didn't include them in this. I'll put some pictures of like the different versions that I made, because I let everybody choose their own fabrics, and it was really nice to kind of see like different people's styles in it, I guess. So that was cool. Then another sewing project, I finally got around to using this vintage bed sheet. I think it's a bed sheet that I bought when I was living in Montpellier in 2020, well, like 2020, 2021, from like September to March. Then I was living in Montpellier. I have chocolate on it, which is devastating. I bought a few kind of vintage bed sheets from the market in Montpellier, and they've got these anagrams on them, or what are they called? Monograms. They've got these monograms on them. So this one is LC, and actually in the corner, I think it's probably on a piece that I didn't use, it says, I think it was L. Crest, and I think the most likely name in French beginning with L would be Louis. So I feel like this bed sheet belonged to a guy called Louis Crest, which is really cool to kind of feel like there's some real history here. So anyway, I made this dress, and I don't know if I've got great photos of it. It's like a tie back, so the ties kind of cross over at the back, and then you have like bows coming down, and it's got this cute little insert lace which matches the insert at the bottom on the hem. So this was already on the sheet. And I added these little like tucks in the skirt. I really like this dress, really, really like it. I only got to wear it once last summer before it got too cold, but hopefully 2025 will be the year and I'll get to wear it loads and loads and loads. Okay, what's next? Probably this. I flipping love this. This is the Poppy Tee by Petite Knit with obviously a few variations. So this is inspired by the 1970 jumper from Bella Freud, and I thought I'd recreate it, and obviously 1998 is my birth year, so I thought, you know, I don't want 1970 on it because that doesn't mean anything to me, but 1998 is a cool year. It was also a great year. I think that was just a pretty cool year all round. Yeah. So again, like the stripe was knitted into the fabric and the numbers were duplicate stitched. I kind of think that I should have taken a bit more care weaving my ends in all around this project. This was my first time knitting with cotton, and it's amazing how with like wool, the fibres really kind of mesh together and felt together so it doesn't slip out, but with cotton it's really slippy and there's not really enough friction to like hold your stitches in place. So I did find it quite hard to weave my ends in successfully, and there's quite a few like bits poking out here and there, which is annoying. But overall, I think that this was really successful. I don't wear it a huge amount, I think just because I finished it quite late in summer, and it's one of those tops, like it's quite heavy, but it is cotton. I don't know, I'm yet to find like the best way to wear this, but I do really like it. I love the design, and I think that it was like a successful project overall. It's just yet to be made the most of. Let's put it that way. Okay, what's next? So over summer, for like fundraising and everything for drama school, I started to do these variety nights where we would get together, and like I have lots of super talented friends who are like musicians or poets or comedians or actors, and I would just kind of get friends and friends of friends and everybody together. Whoever wanted to perform could have a little slot. That would be like 5, 10, 15-minute slots. And then I would compare in between each one and like do a little bit myself and do some acting and stuff. And to host the first one of those events, I made this jumpsuit, which I am kind of obsessed with. I really love this so much. Yeah, wow, yeah. It's like a vintage pattern. The trousers have no seam on the side. They don't have a side seam, which means that you get this really like smooth line down the hip, and then you almost get this kind of bias effect at the leg, so they drape really beautifully. And then the top is bias cut as well, so it really drapes really beautifully, and I love this jumpsuit. And I'd had that fabric in my stash for probably 2 years, and I just kept thinking, like, this fabric is the most gorgeous. I mean, the colours and this flower is just stunning, and then like the lurex, it's just genius. I love this fabric. And for years I was like, I don't know what to make with this. Like, it's too special. Anything I make with this won't be special enough to like do justice to the fabric. And this was a real kind of turning point for me when I cut into this fabric and I was like, do you know what? It doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be like the best thing that I could ever make with this fabric. It just has to be something that I can wear and that is like fun and exciting. So I think that this pattern kind of achieved all of those things, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. So yeah, that's a success story. What is next? I think that's it for sewing this year as well. Like, I really didn't sew that much this year at all. Obviously, I think I've done it in a video, but I made my sister a knitting bag and I sewed that for Christmas. And that was really nice to get into sewing for that project, and it was amazing to kind of see how when I'm sewing for someone else, I actually get really excited by it, and for some reason when I'm making it for myself, I think I get a bit too perfectionist about it. I can kind of make decisions for other people better than I can make them for myself. So it was a good lesson to make that project. So this is another of those projects that I started years ago. It was originally the Divide pullover from Brooklyn Tweed, and I knitted it using Cascade 220 Sport, which is the same yarn as the champagne cardigan from Petite Knit. So you remember how I was saying like I added mohair to this one, but it was like not really a mohair because it was degraded and everything from being in this cardigan. But I think that you can kind of see that this one has a bit more of a halo, and it is a slightly lighter grey. I mean, it's so subtle. Whatever, like, it probably doesn't make a difference. But this one is just the Cascade 220 Sport. And I got to about, yeah, I think I was like there on the back. It was about up to there. And I got confused with my rows, and I was like, I don't actually like how this is turning out, and I don't really enjoy the sleeve thing that's going to happen, and like how complicated these lines are. And so I put it down, and I never picked it up again. This project has been years in the making. Once I had picked it up again as well, it had been kind of moth-eaten in lots of places and was really not in good condition, and I really thought for ages about just unraveling the whole thing and just getting rid of it and being like, whatever, I don't want to see it. But there was something about it that I liked, and I was really trying at that stage to just push through and not give up on projects and just like finish them. Even if you get halfway through or 70% through and you're sure that you're not going to like it, just finish it. It's like really annoying because you don't ever finish anything. You don't ever feel like you've learned anything or there's any success. You're just always not finishing projects. So I was really trying to finish it. And so I picked it back up again and I thought, do you know what? I'm just going to freestyle it. Like, I know roughly how to do these cables. For context, this is like a twisted rib cable knit. And so I finished the back and I thought, oh yeah, that looks cool. And then I was on the front and I was kind of following the pattern. And then I got to about here, I think. And I was just like, I don't know what's going on. So I just freestyled it to the top. And I actually love how this turned out. I'm kind of obsessed with this cable thing. Like the way the neck comes just around like there, and the way it like all, it's so chic and it's so like simple and organic, but has this like heightened thing. I love the like 5 stripes of rib there. I'm obsessed with it. I love it. And I wear this top all the time. I remember finishing this at home and how like, yes, I was about finishing this, because I was like, This is proof. This is proof that you just need to finish it. You just need to keep going and just finish the damn project. And once you've finished it, like, then evaluate it. But before you finish the project, stop being like, do I like it? Do I not? Have I failed? Have I succeeded? Just finish the fucking thing. So that was a massive success. Very happy with that. Not at all the divide jumper that I thought it was going to be. And actually, I like this way more than the divide jumper. And it was one of those, like, why did I buy that pattern? Again, it's grey and I don't really wear grey. But I think because it's a top in itself, I can kind of make it work. Whereas this is like an addition, like cardigans, you kind of add them onto outfits. And my outfits are never based in this kind of tone. So yeah, it's really hard to wear. Anyway, this is not. This is lovely. Oh, okay, folks, we're nearly there, and I nearly need to go for lunch with my mum. So let's wrap this up, baby. For the final variety night of this year, I knitted something that, again, I cut out bloody years ago and never finished it, and I am very glad that I have finished it, although I probably will never wear it. That is the Rigel blazer, and this is to go with these trousers that I made that were self-drafted. So these trousers go under this jacket. I wanted something special. I wanted something kind of MC-esque. And yeah, I think it turned out really well. It was very rushed towards the end. I didn't get time to do the pockets. I barely had time to like tailor it properly. So the collar is really weird and it really needs a press, and like, it's not great, but it's finished. And I'm so glad that it is finished, because this has been haunting me for a very long time now. I didn't really have enough fabric to like pattern match the stripes or anything, which is kind of gutting. And I don't love that about this, to the extent that I think it might stop me from wearing it. And also the fact that I just don't wear blazers. Like, when am I going to wear a blazer? But I am really happy that I finished it and that I now effectively have a two-piece suit. That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to have a two-piece suit. I wear these trousers all the time, so it's quite cool to have a matching jacket, even though I don't wear jackets. This is the Wallace Slipover. Well, that's what I call it. It's actually this name that I can't pronounce, but it was being knitted at the same time as they were doing all of this hype for the Wallace and Gromit film Vengeance Most Foul, and I realised as I was knitting it that it's almost identical to Wallace's waistcoat. So I'm kind of obsessed with that. I think that's amazing. And I did a YouTube video about this. I was knitting it while I was in a little tiny stone cottage in the West Country, and it was freezing and amazing and cozy and lovely. And I did say that I might kind of embroider something on it to stop it from being just green, but a lot of you were like, no, don't do that. So that's nice of you, thank you, I won't do that. And then obviously there's all of the like Christmas patterns that I knitted. I knitted my first pair of socks, and I also knitted my second, third, fourth and fifth pairs of socks in 2024. Believe it or not, I'm not finished with socks. I still have more socks that I'm knitting as we speak, not as we speak, but like currently. Clearly I haven't had enough. I do want to try more sock techniques in 2025, like expand my sock knowledge. So that brings me to the very last thing that I am making in 2024. It's currently 2025, but I'm counting this as a 2024 project because it's basically done and I've been wearing it for weeks, half finished. So this is the Polar Teddy jacket. Can't remember who it's by, but I'll put the pattern here. I can't even hold it up properly. Maybe I need to wear this. Can you see this? So this is the Polar Teddy jacket in boucle, Rowan boucle, and I am obsessed. This is so cozy, so warm, and I've just finished re-knitting the collar because I knitted it before and it was like way too big and it kept falling off my shoulders. It just wasn't comfortable. So I re-knit it, again, double knit, life changer. And I'm just in the process of adding these little toggle buttons, and these are some I-cord loops that I made. I don't think I'll ever really wear it done up, but I think it's a nice touch to have the buttons on. And I did want the like really long dark wood toggles, but they're like £6 per toggle, and that just adds such a massive cost to the whole project that I was like, for something that I'm never gonna like really wear out of the house, I don't think that that's worth it. Anyway, I love this pattern. I'm gonna finish it now. I'm literally gonna like sew the buttons on now and then go for lunch with my mum. Thank you so much for watching. I think this has probably turned out to be quite a long video, so thank you so much if you're still watching right to this point. Stay tuned for everything that I want to knit in 2025. I have so many really like exciting projects in mind. And I think in general, 2025 is going to be a kind of crazy year of like, I have no idea where I'll be this time next year. So it'll be really exciting and kind of interesting to record exactly what I want to make and where I'm at now, and then look back on that in a year's time and kind of see how everything's changed. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.